Hello everyone, for OneWrestling.com, this is Bill Apter. Welcome to another edition of Face to Face, the Apter Chat. And right now, going all the way from Apter's Alley in Philadelphia to somewhere in the depths of the Carolinas, Robbie Kellum, the Stro, welcome to the Apter Chat. It's good to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, so tell everybody what you're up to these days. What have you been doing? We've gotten some requests to have you on the Apter Chat and said, hey, whatever happened to that guy?
Well, I'm still around, Lord willing. I'm much better health these days. I'm still wrestling, pretty active with the wrestling, and also acting for television and film. I'm doing much better health-wise than I was a few years ago.
Well, tell us about those health issues.
Well, all the years I've been wrestling way over 20 years now. From amateur wrestling to mixed martial arts to professional wrestling, and after years of doing all that to your body, it finally takes its toll after a while, right?
Yeah.
So, I finally decided to get on the DDP yoga.
Oh.
And which he was kind of putting over to me, during my time at WCW, but I got so sidetracked with everything, I didn't really, take it too seriously at the time. And a few years ago, when I was just fatigued from all the years of, doing what I did and for my body, and my lower back was really feeling it. So, I decided, okay, I'll give this a shot. And it's been amazing. It's been so amazing. I've lost over 70 pounds.
Really?
And my flexibility is 10 times better than what it was. I've always stretched out being an athlete, but never to that extent, you know what I mean? And it's just amazing. Seeing what it's done to help, like one of my mentors, Jake the Snake Roberts, who we've tagged together, we've wrestled together, been through a lot together basically through the years, and tag partners like Scott Hall, what's done for him, it's amazing, and it's something I recommend to anybody. It's really changed my life around quite a bit.
Yeah, we've seen what it did for Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, and so many, actually Chris Jericho too. So many people have gotten on the bandwagon about DDP yoga. One of the questions people always ask me, when you first started off, you were trained in the schooling of old school professional wrestling, and then who came up with the gimmick of the Stro for you?
Well, actually, I entered WCW as Gorgeous George III.
I remember that.
And which it's kind of ironic how that came about, because I didn't realize till later on in my career, after friends like William Regal and Dusty Rhodes was comparing my style to the original Gorgeous George.
Yes.
One day I went to my grandfather, and I asked him. I said, all these guys are comparing my style to the Gorgeous George from years ago, and he looked at me. He's like,
and I'm sure your grandfather had seen Gorgeous George wrestle when he was growing up.
Oh, it gets even better. He tells me, he looks me in the face, it's like, you didn't know? I'm like, no what? And he says, he was your granduncle.
Really?
Yeah. Turned out him and my grandpa were like amateur boxing buddies from back in the day before he broke into the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And it just floored me, and it kind of inspired me to do the name Gorgeous George III from there on out, in honor and retrospect of his legacy and what he'd done for the business. And what's really cool, later on, like years later, fast forward, meeting James Brown, the Godfather of Soul, right?
Yes, of course.
A guy that was influenced by my granduncle years ago, and telling about how he influenced him and the great Muhammad Ali and all that, and so many people. And it's just amazing to meet somebody that was influenced by a member of your family,
Yes, yeah, of course.
It's funny how life does that, And
so how did that evolve into the Stro character?
Well, I first entered WCW as Gorgeous George III.
Right.
And then later on, Randy Savage, which a few years before I actually got signed, he wanted to give the name to Lanny Poffo and have him in as another deal, which I was really cool with that because Lanny Poffo was very talented wrestler, and I knew with his style he could, you know, carry on what Gorgeous George started with his style.
Sure.
But his fell through, and my deal fell through, so I kept wrestling overseas for a few more years, and then after touring Mexico with Triple Mania, Jake the Snake Roberts, and wrestling around Texas is when I got another tryout from WCW, in which I couldn't ask for anybody better to try out for than Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole family wrestling like all their life, just like, you know, the Armstrongs, and I mean, such great, what a great wrestling family. And we had a phenomenal match, and I remember, you know, it's like my grandpa always told me I always knew who the boss is, right? You know what I mean? And everybody's putting our match over and everything, and all these agents coming in and saying, well, it could have done this or that. You don't really know who to believe, right?
Yeah.
And Eric Bischoff walks in and says, guys, great match. Looks at me and says, we could use a good talent like you. Welcome aboard. And no sooner you see that, everybody, all the agents changed their tunes, right? He's like, oh, great match. You know, it's phenomenal. I walked out the door, Diamond Dallas Page, Arn Anderson, everybody come to shake my hand, welcome me aboard. It was like one of the greatest feelings ever. And fast forward from that point, where you were saying with the Stro character, Maestro, when Randy Savage wanted to give the name to his valet at the time, Stephanie Bellers, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I was kind of perplexed. So I went to Eric Bischoff, which, you know, Eric was really approachable. We sat down at a meeting, and you know, during at one time he had the martial arts characters with Wrath and Glacier.
I remember that.
And then he was kind of going towards the musical end, right? With the artist, you know, Prince Iakea, the Demon, you know, Dale Torberg, and
it was a great time.
Right, and with me, found out about my musical background, because I have a theater background, in which, you know, I sang, I played the piano, I was in Shakespearean plays and all that. And
I do remember you and I talked about that.
Right, and we kind of put our heads together and came up with the Maestro, which was a throwback from my old Gorgeous George III character persona, which I hate the word character in wrestling, because then we live it. You know what I mean? We live and breathe what we do. You know, it's our gimmick, our persona.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't mind saying that we with the acting, you know, in the films and all that, you know, it's fine. But, you know, pro wrestling's a whole new animal. And, you know, as we all know. And so my envisionment of the Maestro didn't really come out until later on in my run with WCW, which I envisioned to be more of a Man of the Opera split personality type persona, where, you know, I would come up this arrogant, pompous, throwback heel from back in the day, you know, but a little something would set me off, and I would just lose it, you know, and go crazy, which came out during my feuds with, like, Buff Bagwell, the Cat Ernest Miller, and all that, with the band music going crazy. And Jericho, speaking of Jericho had, like, a little deal going. It's like, you know, he would do his cheap trick thing, I want you to want me, right? You know, and did the deal with Ralphus, and his hair all crazy different ways. And here I'd come out, my hair, like, whacked like a spaced out Mozart. You know
right. I remember. Actually, you reminded me of Liberace.
Right.
Yeah.
Our theory was, the more entertaining we can make our personas, wrestling personas on television and so forth, the more the office would invest interest in us, because they would know we would make anything entertaining, more or less. Yeah. So you know,
it's all in the marketing.
Right, and it worked, because even when he you know left, you know, people still remember what he did. You know, it wasn't like everybody went down phase. When I left WCW, people were talking about what I did with Ernest the Cat Miller and Brown, everything like that. And I remember after doing that deal with Ernest Miller, James Brown, and Mean Gene the Dancing Machine.
Yeah.
Get in the back there, and a Vampiro comes up to me and says, "That's one of the greatest segments I've ever seen." That's
great. That's great. So that character still lives in you today. When you're wrestling, do you come into the ring currently in that Stro gimmick?
Well, like life, I evolve, just like wrestling should evolve, right?
Yes.
And I've got a kind of a crazier. It ties into what I was doing in WCW. I've kind of got even more crazier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
song, like and talk. I call myself Papa and his children and all that. Like I'm crazy, but with a mission, with a purpose. You know what I mean?
And what is that mission?
I'm still trying to figure it out, actually.
Okay, well, let us know when you do. So one of the
method to the madness, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Now you've done just about everything in entertainment. Tell us about you've been doing some TV and movie work recently.
yes, I was just on Sleepy Hollow this past Monday on Fox, a little appearance on that.
Well, this past Monday,
did.
depending upon when you're watching this, it could have been, if you're watching this in 2015, it was last year. It was a hell of a show. Right?
Well, episode 6 and 8 on this season of Sleepy Hollow.
And who do you play? And who do you play in the show? And where is that broadcast?
On Fox, and I am the biker in the tavern scene where Ichabod Crane hangs out.
Okay.
All
right.
And I'm also I'm going to be on Secrets and Lies on ABC coming up soon in their new season, episode 8, I think.
That's great. And again, depending upon when you're watching this, check your local TV listings. One of the main reasons I wanted to get you on here is that you and I, along with a lot of superstars like Harley Race, Ted DiBiase, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, Dr. Tom Pritchard, and others, on March 7th, 2015, we're going to be part of the Living Legacy, a tribute and a fan expo to Jim Cornette, which will be at the Wilmington, North Carolina Coastline Convention Center. So what I wanted to find out from you is, you've known James E. for many, many, many years. Tell us about your relationship with James Cornette, both personally and professionally.
He was very instrumental in helping me with getting started with my first major territory with Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Correct.
Several years back, and it was him, Ricky Morton, Tracy Smothers. They all kind of came together with doing gave him up the Robbie Eagle thing for me.
Yeah.
Which was actually a shoot deal where my shoot Letterman's jacket with my medals and all and my amateur stuff, freestyle Greco-Roman, and Jimmy creatively, he looked out for me. He gave me my start. He gave me an opportunity to beat the champ, television champion on Smoky Mountain Wrestling TV, and he opened the door for a lot of things for me, and that's something that I'll always be grateful for myself, because Jim Cornette, in my opinion, is like one of the greatest wrestling minds in the entire business.
He is.
So much history.
I always say he's not a racket. He's got it, but he's not a racket.
Yeah, that's true, right?
Yeah.
And he's entertaining to be around. He pulls no punches, which I respect that about people that tells it like it is.
Oh, he says whatever's on his mind.
Right. And so when I saw the opportunity to pay tribute to him on March 7th coming up, I jumped on it, because he's definitely been very instrumental in helping me in the business, and I can't thank him enough for it.
All right, so that's if you fans go to mastersofringentertainment.com. That's mastersofringentertainment.com. You will find out where you can get tickets for this. Again, it's mastersofringentertainment.com. Wilmington, North Carolina, the Coastline Convention Center. The Stro will be there. Wonderful Willie, Bill Apter will be there. Ted DiBiase, Harley Race, the Rock and Rolls, Dr. Tom Pritchard, the Midnight Express, Robbie E., and many, many, many others. The Fan Expo during the day. But go to mastersofringentertainment.com to learn all about it. Robbie E. was just on our Apter chat a few weeks ago, so take a look at that, because he also talked about James E. Cornette. Stro, we want to thank you so much for being with us. And if I Can I ask you to take your index finger and point it right in the camera, as I do with all of my guests here of the Apter Chat, and we'll see you at the matches. Thank you, Stro. That is all right, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the tribute to James E. Cornette.